I'm always on the lookout for irregular pop culture relics, so when I came across a selection of TV and movie related 45s at a thrift store recently, I gladly took the lot. The copy of the theme from Ben Casey and the theme from Dr. Kildare, played on piano with orchestral and choral accompaniment, brought out the ironic Gen Xer in me, and I brought it to a recent podcast karaoke, thinking that it would either be passed over or have someone want to talk about it jokingly. What I got instead was a great conversation with a guest named Joanne that made me come around and see that TV viewers of the 1960s did not behave any differently from media consumers of any other time period of the 20th or 21st centuries. I also got a story from Joanne about a TV appearance that she made that I would have no reason to know about had it not been for this record. All right, so I'm here at Banded Brewing with I'm here with Joanne, and Joanne, from the things I brought on my table, it's kind of cluttered. I admit it looks kind of like I'm having like a moving sale or something like that. But actually, one of the things I brought was I just picked it up last week or so. It was from I found it at a Salvation Army. This is a 45 record. Of Ben Casey and Dr. Kildare theme. And as soon as I grabbed it, I was like, I need to bring this because I want some answers on this thing. Why? I don't understand why they would make a 45 of a TV themes, a theme song to a TV show on 45 record. It just seems odd to me. But first of all, before we go into the question, what was it about this that caught your eye? Why did you want to talk about this particular topic?
Okay, Eric. So the reason I picked this up was man, woman. I would just remember the infinity symbols, and I actually had a bracelet that I wore that had all those. And where would people understand infinity? Now it has a lot of meanings to me. But as a child, I watched this show, and Ben Casey was a different show than Dr. Kildare.
Yeah.
So they were these extreme hunks. One was a dark-haired guy with curly black hair, and the other one was a young doctor with blonde hair. So everybody had their favorite.
Right. It's kind of like
Mine
the
was Dr. Kildare.
earlier version of McSteamy and McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy,
definitely.
right?
Yes.
Where everybody was like, oh yeah, this is, I'm a McDreamy or I'm a McSteamy.
Right.
I never had an opinion on either one of them, but...
And you've never seen these boys?
I just clips. And I remember when I was a kid, they would have, on like Nickelodeon stuff, reruns of Ben Casey and stuff, but it wasn't something I as a little kid was
like,
going to watch, but my parents...
or now they actually show you scenes
Yeah.
of operations.
Although
I think they just...
I always do think about, have you ever seen the movie Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yes.
Because, and based on a true story, when he's wants to fool them into that he's a doctor, you see him watching an episode of Ben Casey and then using the language from that when you're like, do you concur?
Right.
That kind of, hospital talk and stuff. Which is funny because I'm like, all the things that you could make for a show, this is a 45 record. I mean, so these things wouldn't be a lot of money, right? Like when they were at the record store, maybe at, I bought it for 79 cents last week. That's the price tag from last week.
55 cents at the time that they used to sell these. I've never heard it myself.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. It's just...
Can we have them play it?
Maybe, if they have a 45, if they have a record player,
Sure, we can Google it.
And then people are like, oh, that's Ben Casey's theme song. I'm going to,
I don't know.
So, who do you think the intended audience? Is it the same people that... Because there's not a photograph of either doctor on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think they made this for?
For somebody like me that just remembers the names and the shows that went with it. Because I would pick this up.
You would?
I would.
Yeah.
And then I would probably have to Google it and YouTube
Right.
to find what the theme song was,
Right.
because I don't remember anything besides dun, 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 dun,
Right,
Bonanza,
yes, Bonanza,
or
yeah.
something like
One of
that.
those more
But
classic
I don't
shows.
remember what these.
I do.
So I think it's just the name and the symbols.
Right. It just
the
kind of
iconic
brought it back to
symbols.
you. So, like, for example, so I teach a pop culture class at high school level, and I do this game with them. It's just name the TV show based on the theme song, and it plays like 15 seconds of, and it's amazing. Like, we just did the 70s, and like nobody in the room was alive in the 70s, but so many of them, they're like, oh, that's Happy Days, or that's, All in the Family, or they know all the shows just from the theme song, because I feel like they put so much more time and effort in those days into the theme song for TV shows than they did later on. Like, I think after a while, they don't even have theme songs for shows,
And
or if they do, it's
commercials,
just
too.
like a little clip, and so I wonder if, like, in part, the theme song was a way to announce the show was coming on. So if you're in the other room, oh, my show's starting, I gotta get back. But it just seems weird to have it in, like on-demand form. Because I also have over here this Beach Boys 45. Like, I know why they made this. You hear the song on the radio, you want to listen to it at home anytime you want. But a theme song from a TV show, it just seems kind of, unless it's like a really good song, it seems like a weird.
I don't even know what this song would
Right,
be.
it's not as recognizable.
No,
Like,
not at all, because they had to put the two of them on one seat.
Right, just
once to 145.
It must have been a short song if they have two of them on there. The other thing I can think of maybe
on
is
piano, no less.
yeah, so it's extra special.
No
Ooh.
words.
Maybe even the actors are playing it
And the
themselves.
orchestra. Imagine. Oh yeah.
I guess it's I can't criticize too much because I know that, like, I was a huge Seinfeld fan and I was like a huge Simpsons fan when I was a teenager, and I feel like if they had something comparable for like that, like a CD single of the Seinfeld theme, just that, and it was a 55 cents or $1, yeah, I probably would have bought it. I don't know if I'd ever listen to it or do anything with it, but just as a way to demonstrate my fandom. So this was like the 60s version of that. It was like, all right,
You've got me curious.
are you a Ben Casey super fan? If so, buy
Right.
this.
Right, and if you're not, he's got top billing.
Yeah, I wonder how Dr.
I
Kildare
don't know
felt
the
about
theme,
that.
but they got two of. They did it on 145. It's hard to say 45, but 145. Was it ever played?
Let's find out. Moment of truth. Doesn't look like it was overly used. Yeah, it's pretty.
I don't think they made too much money on this one.
No. I wonder if that was
It's curious.
a shot in the dark by
curiosity. I was looking at
Carlton
everything.
Records. They were like, okay, let's go with the Ben Casey one and
Right.
see where it takes us, and then they regretted it immediately. They're like, oh, okay, we'll never do that again. So, because I mean, there are some theme songs from that era that are enjoyable songs. There's a theme song from MASH. I've heard that on the radio before. That's kind of a weird name for it.
I actually was on Wonderama. I don't know if you ever heard of that show.
No.
Wonderama was a kids show on Channel 5. Sonny Fox was the MC, and then it was probably 1970 to 71, and then Bob McAllister took it over, and I had gotten on the show, and I danced to. They used to have a dance contest.
Oh, okay.
So I danced to the theme song of Hawaii 5.
Oh, okay.
And I won a bike.
That makes sense. So not a surfboard
it's
or
not a song to dance to.
right.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. It's not a
Is
dance
it
song.
The Ventures, did they do that one?
Probably.
Yeah, it sounds like something
but
they
it's
would
not
do.
I
No,
don't-
how did
I don't
you
know,
dance to it?
At
Did you-
12 years old, I was very happy with my banana seat bike with the long handlebars.
You're probably the
and-
only kid in the neighborhood that got your bike that way.
Sure.
Everyone else got it for Christmas or
Right.
their birthday.
But
Like, I had to
that
do a
song
dance on
was
TV.
iconic.
Yeah.
for Hawaii 5.
Yeah, and you could spot
so
that.
I'm sure you could.
So maybe
find top 45.
maybe the next contestant the next week danced to the Ben Casey theme and got some medical equipment or something.
What it is, yes,
you know,
exactly.
maybe got like a first aid kit.
So I could see how theme songs can make their way to a 45, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't have a year on it.
I'm guessing. Yeah, I looked up and down on it too. Not a single. It seems like it was, and just the graphics are so simple on the sleeve. They must have just thrown that thing together. And the fact that it's on piano, they probably didn't even have the original track. They were just like, all right, this show's catching, it's getting popular. Go get your piano, start playing the song, and we'll. It's always kind of funny when you, like, we listen to Pandora at my house a lot. We just put it on, when we're doing tours around the house. And if you put it on like the jazz channel or something like that, there's like jazz versions, and you're walking by and like, hey, isn't that the theme from, or isn't that from that, just something totally random and weird. And so it's like, I guess our initial judgment of like, what the heck were they doing? Mm-hmm. Why'd they make it? Has now been retracted. And like, yeah, I guess it makes sense.
What audience would they have?
Would do that. And
I would say this is for fans.
Right.
The fans of Ben Casey. I really care for Ben, but I like Dr. Kildare. And he had just a great name, Richard Chamberlain.
That is a good name.
And he was on a lot of things. Maybe he was younger. He might have been the younger doctor.
It probably was, maybe this was appealing to two groups of people, right?
I don't think too many men would have bought this.
No. You never know. I mean, they might be like, hey, maybe if I put it on, girls will come to my apartment thinking that I'm the doctor, and then when they open the door, they're like,
say white coat, man in white coat, and your wife would not be very happy about it. Now you've got me curious. Now
I got to look it up as soon as we're done with this. I'm like, I got to find what this theme song sounds like and actually see if we can play it. But all right, well, thanks for stopping by. This has been a lot of fun, and
now I'm really curious. I'm gonna YouTube this.
And if I was
find out if it's familiar,
scour this audience and say, has anybody here ever been on a TV show where you danced to a theme song and got a bike?
No.
You're probably the only one here that has that as part of their resume, right? We'll find out.
I'd say probably one of the older ones.
Anybody else?
They didn't do that for a long time.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Eric.
I appreciate it. It doesn't take too much effort to understand why, in 1961, a pair of shows on two different networks would feature handsome characters of Irish descent in roles where they diagnose and treat patients, fixing and problem solving while the country watched from their living rooms. After all, there may have been someone like that in a prominent position in the early 1960s. The name escapes me right now, but I'm sure most of you have an idea who I'm referring to. The record itself is a product of a consumer culture that had existed across a good part of the country's demographics in the 1960s. In that shoppers at grocery stores would recognize the set of symbols used in Ben Casey's opening and the shape of the television on the record cover and grab up the item because it was inexpensive and familiar. An easy gift for a fan of the shows or just a keepsake to go along with one's media collection. And said media collection was growing by leaps and bounds in the era as television, music, print, movies, and more were producing as much as they could to be taken home and forged into individual and household identities. Thank you for listening to this short episode of the EPS podcast. This and other segments recorded live as part of my podcast karaoke events come out on Tuesdays, while longer episodes, deep dives into pop culture topics, come out on Thursdays. Be sure to follow the show on social media, including YouTube, and especially Instagram at @the_EPS_podcast. Show notes and early access to content are found on Substack, and you can support the show financially by becoming a paid subscriber there or on Patreon. Please tune in again to the EPS podcast, where everything, including a 45 of the Ben Casey and Dr. Kildare themes, is a primary source.